Now, amidst the financial meltdown and political uncertainty, Afghanistan is, of course, staring at an indefinite humanitarian catastrophe over the course of the next few weeks and months. In the wake of the Taliban's return to power, neighbouring nations and others have started bracing for the possibility of a massive migrant crisis. The United Nations Refugee Agency has warned that at least about 500,000 Afghans could flee the country by the end of this year. The United States has said that it will continue to accept Afghans who are fleeing the war-torn nation. However, it will not be able to accept everyone who is leaving Afghanistan. For that, extensive outreach is required. Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby has said that Afghan evacuees are being flown to several locations across the Middle East and Europe, including Germany, Italy and Spain. Bear in mind that the Americans are not evacuating the most desperate of the Afghans. They are evacuating those individuals who had in fact worked for the American and NATO-led forces and also their family members. Now, about 155 flights have landed in Europe with about 38,000 people. Meanwhile, Pakistan, which is hosting the highest number of Afghan refugees, there is a growing concern amongst the Pakistani officials about security aspects in terms of what is unfolding in their neighbouring nation. Islamabad is particularly concerned about the possibility of militant fighters from a separate Pakistani Taliban group crossing from Afghanistan and launching some lethal attacks on its territory. The fears of a refugee crisis amidst a much larger security concern looms large on Pakistan. At this point of time, Pakistan is hosting about 3 million Afghan refugees. Now, there are tight controls that have been imposed with the Turkham crossing with Afghanistan. The border is now being manned by the Taliban at the Afghan side of the border, with air traffic having been suspended. Turkham is one of the few ways of people of getting out of Afghanistan and crossing over into Pakistan. However, the worsening security has prompted the authorities to clamp down on the border movement.
جای سر کار بار نشته روزگار نشته مون در بدر ده پاکستان سر راغلی مون پاکستان حکومت سر خواهش ده که زما سر کمک که مون ماجر ده ماشومان ده در بدر ده تل ماشومان ده در بدر ده بوده
البته دیر جنگ و ماما کرونا تباش ماما یا پلار افغانستان خاطر دل تا اورگانز وڑا اورگانز سر ماما کارگر سوق نشته ماما روده پیسه سوق پیدا کردی نشه ماما زخ خپل خار ته وزه ماما بده خبره ده ماما سکو مجبوری دیره سخت ده ماما پلار مکه دی خواهی روده پیسه پیدا کردی ماما.
All right, those were the people who are living in refugee camps. Meanwhile, Britain has vowed to work towards the habitation of some Afghan refugees. Remember, these Western European and American nations are, of course, taking in a few hundreds and maybe a few thousands of these Afghan refugees, while a majority of them are camping in Pakistan and also in neighbouring Iran. Now, Britain is all set to release about $41 million in terms of aid to support the neighbouring Afghans and also dealing with the migrant influx. About $1.38 million will be made available immediately to the United Nations to help shelters that are located at the borders between Afghanistan and Pakistan and Iran. The remainder will, of course, go to the neighbouring nations. Italian Premier Mario Draghi has said that the Afghans who have already reached Italy will be given refugee status and that the authorities are now working towards integrating them. He has further added that diplomats are trying to locate Afghans who fled from their homeland to Iran and to other nations bordering Afghanistan.
Per quanto riguarda i rifugiati afghani, sì, è stata individuata è stato individuato un percorso speciale. Intanto all'arrivo sono stati tutti accolti in strutture diverse da quelle consuete, appoggiate presso la difesa, appoggiate presso il Ministero degli Interni. È stata data loro, come dicevo prima, immediatamente la condizione di rifugiato, il che li equipara sostanzialmente a dei cittadini italiani in tutti i modi, e sono stati tutti vaccinati immediatamente. A proposito, la pratica di vaccinazione immediata verrà estesa in generale a tutti.
Meanwhile, Germany, interestingly, has found a different type of solution to the humanitarian problem. Germany feels that the resumption of diplomatic presence in Kabul will ensure communication with those who are still stuck in the country. The foreign minister has signalled the reopening of the German embassy in Kabul if certain conditions of safety and security are met.
Die meisten Menschen werden in Afghanistan bleiben, außer unsere Staatsbürger und Ortskräften, denen wir einen Aufenthaltstitel zugebilligt haben, werden aufgrund der geschlossenen Grenzen Afghanistan nicht verlassen können. Deshalb muss man den Menschen in Afghanistan jetzt helfen und dafür muss man auch mit den Taliban sprechen. Wir sind auch bereit, wenn diese Voraussetzungen erfüllt sind und die Sicherheitsbedingungen gegeben sind, auch diplomatisch wieder präsent zu sein in Kabul. Das werden wir nicht nur in der EU, sondern auch darüber hinaus zu besprechen haben. Wir müssen aber, wenn wir helfen wollen, auch diplomatische Präsenz vor Ort auf Dauer haben.
Now, many Afghans are all set to begin their new life in as far-flung places as South Korea. About 390 evacuees arrived in Seoul last week after the government said that it is amending its immigration laws to grant long-term residency to those who provided special service to South Korea when it went into Afghanistan as a part of the forces led by the Americans.
And I would like to continue my profession. I would like to work as a medical doctor here. And after this quarantine time is over, I will seek the ways how to enter this process and how to find opportunities for work. And of course, if the getting certificate is needed, I will get ready and try to get the Korean certificate.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.